Let me tell you something. Being alone is not a weakness. It's not a punishment. It's a process. It's preparation. It's where you meet the real you. Being alone is not a weakness. It's a process for growth. In a world that constantly feeds us the idea that we need to be surrounded by people to be happy, to be validated, or to feel seen, solitude often gets misinterpreted. People fear it. They avoid it. They think that being alone means being unwanted, unloved, or left behind. But the truth is, being alone can be one of the most powerful and transformative experiences of your life if you embrace it the right way. That solitude is not something to run from. It's something to walk into with purpose. When you're alone, you are no longer distracted by the noise of the world. You're not trying to impress anybody. You're not trying to keep up. You're not adjusting your thoughts, your beliefs, or your behavior to fit into someone else's expectation. You're just there, raw, real, and unfiltered. That's where growth begins. That's where the mask comes off and the work begins. Oh, when you're by yourself, you start to notice what you've been ignoring, the wounds you buried, the dreams you've delayed, the habits you justified. Alone, you hear the truth. It might not be pretty. It might not feel good, but it's honest and it's necessary. You can't heal what you won't confront. You can't grow from what you keep running from. Solitude forces you to sit still and deal with the real. Most people don't realize that some of the strongest individuals they admire went through long seasons of solitude. Before the success, before the spotlight, before the celebration, they were alone, working, growing, struggling, learning. They didn't have a crowd cheering them on. They didn't have a team hyping them up every step of the way. They had silence. They had setbacks. They had solitude. And in that solitude, they discovered who they truly were. They learned to depend on their discipline instead of motivation. They learned to move forward with faith instead of fear. The problem is, we've been taught to equate being alone with being lonely. But they're not the same thing. Loneliness is the absence of connection. Solitude is the presence of self. There's power in getting to know yourself at the deepest level. Your strengths, your weaknesses, your triggers, your desires. Most people are strangers to themselves because they never take time to be alone. They're constantly plugged in, scrolling, talking, watching, comparing. They never sit in silence long enough to hear their own voice. And if you don't know your own voice, you'll follow anyone who sounds confident. You'll chase paths that don't belong to you. You'll make choices based on pressure instead of purpose. Being alone gives you time to reflect and recalibrate. You start asking yourself real questions. Am I living in alignment with who I am? Am I pursuing what I truly want or what others expect of me? Am I being honest about what hurts me, what heals me, what fuels me? These questions are hard, but they're necessary. And the answers don't come through noise. They come through solitude. You start to see that your value isn't tied to who shows up for you, but how you show up for yourself. You stop measuring your worth based on who validates you, and you start standing on the truth of your own existence. You realize you're enough, not because someone told you so, but because you discovered it in the quiet, alone, when it was just you and your thoughts. You see, solitude doesn't just strip away the noise, it sharpens your vision. You start to see your life with clarity. You start to recognize the patterns that keep you stuck. You see the excuses you've been making and the potential you've been wasting. That awareness, that's the seed of transformation. And it only grows in the soil of solitude, not in solitude. Your resilience is built. You're forced to develop your own inner fire. You can't rely on external motivation. You have to create your own momentum. You have to get up when nobody's watching, push forward when no one's cheering, and believe in yourself when no one else seems to. That kind of strength isn't built in comfort. It's built in the uncomfortable silence where most people quit. But if you stay in the discomfort long enough, you emerge with something unshakable, a foundation that can't be moved by people's opinions or life's unpredictability. This process is not easy. It's uncomfortable. It's frustrating. Sometimes it's painful, but it's necessary. Because what's built in solitude can't be destroyed by the crowd. When you know who you are truly deeply, you stop needing everyone to understand you. You stop explaining yourself. You stop apologizing for taking your time, protecting your peace, and choosing your path. You start moving different. You start moving different, thinking different, living different. Not because someone told you to, but because you found your power in the silence. That growth often happens in silence, not in crowds. This truth is difficult to accept in a world that glorifies performance and public success. We see people winning on stages, getting praise, building platforms, and we think that's where transformation occurs. We think progress must be loud, visible, and shared for it to be real. But the reality is the most significant changes happen in the quiet moments, the ones no one else sees, where you're grinding, thinking, breaking down, and building back up. There's something sacred about silence. This strips you of distractions. It removes the need to pretend. It forces you into a space where you have to face your process, your doubts, your fears, and your truth. In the crowd, it's easy to lose yourself. It's easy to play a role, to wear a mask, to go along with the momentum of everyone else's expectations. But in the silence, the only voice that echoes is yours. And that's where growth becomes possible, because until you hear your own voice clearly, you can't truly change. It's in the silent, unseen moments where discipline is forged. When the alarm clock goes off at 4 a.m. and no one's there to push you out of bed. When you choose to stay in and study, work, or grind while others are out having fun. When you're exhausted but still show up for your dreams. There's no applause, no lights, no audience. Just you doing what you said you would do. That's growth. That's transformation. That's what builds a foundation that can withstand anything. You see, the crowd is comfortable. It gives you a sense of belonging. It makes you feel like you're doing something just because you're around people doing something. But motion is not progress. You can be in a room full of people chasing goals and still be standing still. Growth is not contagious. You don't catch greatness by association. You earn it through personal commitment. And that commitment often gets tested when you're alone, when no one's watching, when there's no one to impress. That's when the real work begins. Not in silence, you find your hunger. You start to ask yourself, why am I doing this? Not for approval, not for clout, not to prove anything to anybody, but for you. You realize that your reason has to be stronger than the resistance. And resistance shows up the loudest in the quiet. It tells you to quit. It whispers doubt. It reminds you of every time you fail. But if you can keep going in that silence, if you can push through without an audience, you develop an inner strength that nothing external can shake. The problem is, we've been conditioned to believe that visibility equals value. That if no one sees you working, it must not count. That if it isn't posted, shared, or recognized, it must not be real. But some of the greatest achievements are born in hidden seasons. The roots grow before the branches ever show. A seed breaks open in the dark soil long before it becomes a tree. The foundation of greatness is laid in private. You don't see the training. You don't see the late nights, the early mornings, the failures, the restarts. All you see is the result. But that result was born in silence. Silence teaches patience. It teaches persistence. It teaches you how to rely on discipline instead of motivation. Because motivation fades, the hype dies. The energy from the crowd goes away. But discipline stays. And discipline is what you build in those quiet, lonely moments when it's just you and your mission. You learn how to show up when it's hard. You learn how to keep moving when the process feels slow. You learn to appreciate the progress no one else can see. The crowd will come later. The recognition, the support, the success, they might show up in time. But if you wait for them to begin, you'll never start. And if you need them to keep going, you'll never finish. The silence is your test. It asks, do you really want this? And it doesn't let you cheat. It doesn't let you skip steps. It demands honesty. It demands effort. It demands consistency. And through that, it gives you the kind of growth that lasts. That growth in silence isn't glamorous. It doesn't look impressive from the outside. But it's real. It's deep. It's lasting. You're not just learning skills, you're building character. You're not just checking boxes. You're changing from the inside out. Every decision to keep going, every time you choose effort over ease, every moment you pick focus over comfort, that's transformation. It might be silent now, but the results will speak for themselves later. Facing yourself in solitude builds strength. It's one thing to be strong when others are around, when you got people to lean on, voices to guide you, and hands to help you. But it's another thing entirely to stand in front of the mirror with no distractions, no noise, no safety net, and still choose to grow. Still choose to ride. Still choose to rise. Not in public victories, but in private battles. When you're alone, there's nowhere to hide. The excuses you've been using start to sound weak. The stories you've been telling yourself fall apart under the weight of truth. Solitude removes the filter. It exposes the parts of you that you've ignored, denied, or buried under busyness and noise. You can't blame distractions. You can't blame your environment. It's just you, your thoughts, your habits, your patterns, your pain. And facing that version of yourself is one of the hardest things you'll ever do. But it's also the most powerful. Because strength isn't built in comfort, it's built in confrontation. The moment you stop running and start reflecting is the moment you begin to take back your power. You stop blaming and start owning. You stop deflecting and start accepting. That takes courage. That takes maturity. That takes a level of self-awareness that most people spend their entire lives avoiding. In solitude, you're forced to ask hard questions. Why do I keep repeating the same mistakes? What am I avoiding? Who am I pretending to be? These questions don't always have immediate answers, and they aren't easy to sit with. But facing them is the foundation of growth. It's how you identify what's broken and begin the process of rebuilding. It's how you get honest with yourself, maybe for the first time in years. Most people avoid solitude not because they don't have time, but because they don't want to deal with what they'll find in the silence. It's easier to stay busy. It's easier to keep moving. But at some point, the noise stops working. The distractions lose their power. And you're left with the truth. No one can grow for you. No one can heal you. No one can carry your purpose but you. That realization, that's where strength begins. Strength is not just about enduring pain. It's about learning from it. When you're alone, you start to understand your pain instead of just experiencing it. You trace it back. You ask where it came from, what it taught you, how it shaped you. You begin to see that everything you went through, even the stuff that broke you, was preparing you. You find meaning in the mess. You find wisdom in the wounds. That kind of clarity doesn't come from people hyping you up. It comes from being quiet enough to listen to yourself. In solitude, you start building a foundation based on truth, not image, not ego, not performance. Truth. You learn what you value, what you believe, what you're willing to fight for. You find out how much strength you really have when no one's there to rescue you. And when you make it through those moments, something changes inside you. You walk different. You think different. You speak different. Not because you're trying to prove anything, but because you've already proven it to yourself. You also realize that the strength you build in solitude is transferable. It shows up in your relationships, in your work, in your decisions. You stop needing constant reassurance. You stop being swayed by other people's opinions. You stop chasing validation. Why? Because you've already validated yourself. You've looked yourself in the eye during your darkest hours and said, I'm not giving up. And then you did. That's strength. It's in the silence that you develop the ability to self-regulate, to calm your own storms, to motivate yourself when there's no external push. You start creating your own structure. You build routines, habits, disciplines. Not for show, not for approval, but because you made a decision to grow. And when you make that decision consistently, day after day, strength becomes your default. You don't get that kind of strength by accident. You get it by choosing to face yourself every single day. You get it by refusing to run from your reflection. You get it by sitting with your failures until they teach you something. You get it by doing the hard internal work that nobody claps for, but everybody eventually benefits from. That kind of strength can't be bought, borrowed, or faked. It's earned in silence, in solitude, in truth. In truth. Self-reliance leads to true confidence. When you rely on yourself, you build a foundation that no external circumstance can shake. True confidence isn't about showing off or boasting. It's about knowing deep down that no matter what happens around you, you have the ability to handle it, adapt, and keep moving forward. And that kind of confidence only comes from learning to stand on your own 2 feet without depending on others to hold you up. So many people look for confidence in the wrong places. They want it through validation from others, likes, compliments, approval, or recognition. But when your confidence depends on someone else's opinion, you're constantly vulnerable to their moods, their judgments, their inconsistency. One minute you feel on top of the world because someone said something nice, and the next minute you're crushed because someone didn't respond the way you expected. That's not confidence. That's dependency disguised as confidence. Self-reliance means taking responsibility for your life, your thoughts, your actions, your emotion. It means not waiting for anyone else to give you permission, encouragement, or support to pursue your goals or be your true self. It means showing up for yourself every day, even when it's hard, even when you don't feel motivated, even when no one else is watching. That's how real confidence is built. Brick by brick, decision by decision. When you rely on yourself, you learn to trust your own judgment. You start to understand that your worth isn't tied to external approval. You stop seeking validation because you've already validated yourself through effort, discipline, and integrity. That self-trust is powerful. It frees you from the need to please everyone or fit into anyone else's mold. You become comfortable making decisions based on what you know is right for you, even if it means going against the crowd. Our self-reliance also teaches resilience. When you know you can depend on yourself, setbacks don't shake you as much. Failures become lessons, not reasons to quit. You stop blaming others or circumstances for your situation and start looking at what you can control: your attitude, your work ethic, your response. That mindset is what separates those who keep going from those who give up when things get tough. Building confidence through self-reliance is not about isolating yourself or rejecting help. It's about knowing that your foundation is strong enough that help is a choice, not a necessity. You learn to appreciate support when it comes, but you don't depend on it to move forward. You're no longer controlled by the presence or absence of others. Instead, you operate from a place of internal strength and stability. This kind of confidence changes how you relate to people, too. You're less likely to be needy or clingy because you don't fear being alone or abandoned. You're more authentic because you're not trying to be someone else to gain approval. You can give generously without expecting anything in return because you're not trying to fill a void inside yourself. You show up fully, knowing that your worth isn't on the line in any relationship or situation. Self-reliance also encourages growth because it requires you to be honest with yourself. You have to confront your weaknesses, mistakes, and areas for improvement without hiding behind excuses or blaming others. That honesty is uncomfortable but necessary. It allows you to take ownership of your progress and push yourself beyond your limits. When you rely on yourself, you're constantly challenging yourself to be better, not for anyone else, but because you respect yourself enough to grow. At the core, self-reliance is about empowerment. It puts the power back in your hand. You stop being a passenger in your own life, waiting for things to happen or for someone else to make the next move. You become the driver. You decide where to go, how fast, and what direction to take. That sense of control is incredibly liberating and builds a deep-seated confidence that no external factor can dismantle. That confidence born from self-reliance is also more consistent. It doesn't fluctuate based on circumstances or people's opinions because it's anchored inside you. It withstands criticism, failure, and rejection because it's built on the understanding that your value isn't tied to any single outcome or approval. You'll know your worth even when others don't see it, and that steadiness gives you peace of mind and a calm assurance in every area of your life. Finally, when you are self-reliant, you inspire others. People are naturally drawn to those who stand tall on their own, who carry themselves with quiet strength and assurance. Your confidence becomes a beacon, showing others what's possible when you take responsibility for your life and stop relying on external validation. You become a living example that true confidence is not given, it's earned through self-reliance, courage, and relentless commitment to yourself. No, solitude sharpens purpose and direction. When the world is noisy and full of distractions, easy to lose sight of what truly matters. The constant buzz of opinions, comparisons, and expectations can cloud your judgment, pulling you in every direction except the one you're meant to go. But when you step away from all that noise and spend time alone, something remarkable happens. Your mind clears, your heart speaks louder, and your purpose begins to come into focus. In the quiet of solitude, you're not pressured to conform to anyone else's agenda. You don't have to answer to social expectations or external demands. You're free to listen to the deepest desires of your soul without interruption. This freedom allows you to sift through the clutter and identify what's authentic for you. What are your real goals? What makes you excited to wake up every morning? What legacy do you want to leave behind? These questions require space and silence to be answered honestly when you're constantly surrounded by others. It's easy to adopt their ideas of success and happiness without questioning whether those ideas align with your own values. You might find yourself chasing goals that aren't really yours, trying to fit into roles that don't suit you, or following paths that lead you away from your true calling. But in solitude, you have the chance to reflect and recalibrate. You begin to separate your voice from the noise, distinguishing between what you want and what others want for you without purpose. It's not something that usually reveals itself loudly or suddenly. It often emerges quietly, like a whisper or a subtle feeling deep inside. If you never stop to listen, you might miss it entirely. Solitude creates the conditions for that quiet revelation. It allows your mind to slow down from the rush of everyday life and gives your heart space to speak. In that stillness, you can feel what resonates with you and what doesn't. You start to understand where your passion lies and what direction you need to take to fulfill it. Clarity about your purpose brings focus. It narrows your attention and energy to what really matters. Instead of spreading yourself thin, trying to do everything and please everyone, you learn to say no to distractions and yes to what aligns with your goals. This focus is powerful because it prevents burnout and keeps you moving steadily toward meaningful achievements. When you know your direction, you make better decisions about your time, your relationships, your career, because you evaluate everything through the lens of your purpose. That solitude also gives you the chance to examine your past experiences and how they've shaped your path. Sometimes our purpose is hidden beneath layers of fear, doubt, or pain. By spending time alone, you can process those experiences, heal wounds, and let go of limiting beliefs. This internal work frees you to pursue your goals without the weight of past failures or negative self-talk holding you back. You emerge clearer, lighter, and more determined. Another important aspect of solitude, sharpening your direction, is that it builds your confidence to follow your own path. When you're alone with your thoughts, you begin to trust your intuition. You start to rely on your inner guidance rather than seeking constant approval from others. This trust in yourself is essential because the path to your purpose isn't always popular or easy. But by the doors, you might face criticism or misunderstanding from those around you. But if you've done the work in solitude, you have a firm foundation to stand on. You know why you're doing what you're doing, and that purpose keeps you steady through challenges. The process of discovering and sharpening your purpose through solitude is ongoing. Purpose is not always fixed. It still evolves as you grow, learn, and experience life. Regular periods of solitude allow you to check in with yourself and adjust your course as needed. It's like recalibrating a compass to ensure you're heading in the right direction. Without this reflection, it's easy to drift off course without even realizing it. In solitude, you also have the space to dream boldly. Away from the skepticism or limitations imposed by others, you can envision what you truly want without censorship. You allow yourself to think bigger, to imagine possibilities beyond your current circumstances. This dreaming is essential because purpose is fueled by vision. When you know what you want to create or contribute, you gain motivation and clarity that propel you forward. Moreover, solitude helps you develop patience and perseverance. Finding and following your purpose is rarely a quick or easy journey. It requires persistence through setbacks, doubts, and uncertainty. But when you have clarity and focus rooted in solitude, you're better equipped to stay committed. You understand that progress takes time, and you're willing to do the work consistently, even when results aren't immediate. But finally, solitude can deepen your sense of meaning and fulfillment. When your actions align with your purpose, life feels richer and more satisfying. You wake up with intention, knowing that your efforts contribute to something bigger than yourself. This alignment brings peace and joy that external achievements alone can't provide. In essence, solitude is a sharpening stone for your purpose and direction. It cuts away confusion and distraction, revealing the clear path that's uniquely yours. By embracing solitude, you gain the clarity, confidence, and commitment needed to move forward with intention and impact. Letting go of the past is one of the most challenging but liberating lessons solitude teaches us. When you're surrounded by people caught up in the daily grind, it's easy to ignore the weight of past mistakes, failures, or heartbreaks. The noise and distractions can mask the pain, keeping you from fully confronting what's holding you back. But in solitude, there's nowhere to run, no distractions to hide behind. You're face to face with your memories, your regrets, and the stories you tell yourself about them. And in that raw encounter, you have a choice to hold on and stay stuck, or to release and move forward. Holding on to the past is like carrying a heavy burden on your shoulders, one that drains your energy, clouds your vision, and stifles your potential. The past can become a prison if you let it define you. You replay old mistakes, regret choices, or cling to pain that no longer serves you. It's easy to fall into the trap of identifying yourself by your failures or wounds. But that identity keeps you trapped in cycles of negativity and limits your ability to grow. That solitude forces you to confront that burden head on. When you're alone, you can't distract yourself with others' problems, social media, or busy schedules. You have time and space to reflect honestly on what's weighing you down. This reflection isn't about blame or self-pity. It's about understanding. Understanding why you reacted the way you did, what lessons are hidden in the pain, and how you can break free from the grip of the past. Letting go doesn't mean forgetting or denying what happened. It means accepting that the past is a part of your story, but it's not the whole story. It means recognizing that you have the power to rewrite your future, regardless of what's behind you. This shift in mindset is critical. It moves you from being a victim of your circumstances to becoming the author of your life. And that power can only be claimed when you're willing to face your past honestly and release its hold. In solitude, you can also begin to forgive. Most importantly, forgiving yourself. Self-forgiveness is often the hardest step because it requires humility and compassion. We tend to be our own harshest critics, carrying guilt and shame longer than anyone else. But holding on to those feelings only keeps the wound fresh. Forgiveness allows healing to begin. It frees your mind and heart from the chains of resentment and regret, opening space for peace and growth. Letting go also means breaking free from limiting beliefs tied to your past. Maybe you told yourself you're not good enough because of a failure. Maybe you believe you don't deserve success or happiness because of mistakes made long ago. These beliefs shape your identity and influence your decisions, often without you even realizing it. But solitude gives you the clarity to challenge these false narratives. It allows you to see yourself through a new lens, one based on potential and possibility, not past pain. This process is not quick or easy. Letting go is often messy. Emotions surface. Old wounds may reopen before they heal. Doubts creep in. But solitude provides the safety to sit with these feelings without judgment. You learn to be patient with yourself, understanding that healing is a journey, not a destination. By releasing the past, you create room for new experience, new opportunity, and new growth. You free up mental and emotional energy that was tied to old stories, allowing you to focus fully on the present and the future. This freedom is essential for moving forward with purpose. When you're not dragged down by what's behind you, you can walk boldly toward what's ahead. Moreover, letting go teaches resilience. It shows you that no matter what has happened, you have the strength to rise again. Every time you release a piece of your past, you prove to yourself that you're not defined by your setbacks, you're defined by your comeback. That realization builds confidence and courage to face whatever challenges come next. Solitude also helps you develop gratitude for the lessons embedded in your past. When you look back with perspective, you can see how even painful experiences shape your character, deepen your empathy, or redirected you toward a better path. This gratitude transforms your relationship with your history from one of regret to one of appreciation, giving you peace and acceptance. Letting go in solitude doesn't mean isolation. It means preparing yourself to engage with the world from a healthier, stronger place. It means showing up with clarity, authenticity, and resilience. It means no longer carrying invisible weights that slow you down or hold you back. Ultimately, the ability to release the past is a form of freedom, a freedom that can only be fully realized when you're willing to be alone with yourself, face your truth, and choose to move forward. This freedom empowers you to write the next chapter of your life with intention, courage, and hope. So, embrace the strength found in being alone. Let solitude be your teacher, your refuge, and your forge. In those quiet moments, when it feels like the world has stepped away, you're actually stepping closer to your true self. Keep pushing forward, even when the path feels lonely, because that journey builds a power within you no one else can give. Remember, the greatest victories come not from the noise of the crowd, but from the resilience, clarity, and confidence you develop when you stand strong on your own. Your future is waiting, and it's brighter than you realize. Keep moving forward.